So really, I would start with a chakira. Okay? Start with a chakira. The siyata dishmaya. We'll start with a chakira. Abstract, as they say, michutzla, without any books. And then we'll figure out if those sides exist or not. So the siyata dishmaya, I would say like this. Simple. When the Gemara answers that Rabbi Gamliel's opinion is that he says, I believe the woman, the body of the woman. What happened was she got married and Petach Patuach. The husband said, this is Nafyud Beis, page 12b. Somebody married a woman and he didn't find any virginity, no besulim. And she doesn't disagree, but she says she admits to it. So we take it as a, not only because Shavya Nafshi, because she admits to it. But she says that it happened after the engagement, therefore she deserved 200, and it says it happened before. What?
She didn't talk about the 200, then the mission didn't say it.
Right. The mission didn't say about 200, but Gemara explains, he's showing him that it's the Tvias Ksuba.
That's the case.
Yes.
That's enough.
That's a noise. The Gemara says, she says, Gabei Tvias Ksuba. The subject is Tvias Ksuba. Demanding Ksuba. That's the subject. So therefore, she says, afterwards I was raped after I got engaged, and therefore I deserve 200. And he says, no, it happened before. You don't deserve 200. It's a mekachto, she doesn't get anything. It's a month machlekes. In the page before, what does the mekachto see according to the husband? Is 100 or 0? The Gemara's conclusion is, in the Yud Aleph Amud Beis, that is Veloy Klum. That's what although the Gemara brings two opinions in page 13. So we have two opinions on Moiroim. The Gemara in the Yud Aleph concludes as Veloy Klum. Okay. So comes Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel says, I believe the woman. So what we want to speak about today, what is our subject? We want to define what is the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel and what's Rabbi Yeshua's argument. Okay, whatever the definition of Rabbi Gamliel, and I have to explain why Rabbi Yeshua argues. So, in our Gemara, page 12, the Gemara brings two svaras, which looks in the beginning could be a dechiyeh, a push-off, but the Gemara says, which seems to be the Gemara says it's a true svara. Kanam mistapra means it's a true svara. So what is a true svara? It goes on both, on one of the terutzim. The Gemara said the reason why is omigu or chazaka. That's what the Gemara says. Inami also eladika migu avaloche mai miguika inami at kana kumar amir elamrin ukma chazok oche mai chazok yisle. So this is ukma chazok. So chazok or migu, and Rashi explained which chazok is cheskasag. It's an argument when it happened, and she says it happened later after she got engaged. So she says cheskasaguf, that she was born in Besula, says it happened as little as possible. This is what the Gemara says here in page 12a. In page Yud Gimel, the Gemara doesn't explain. It's very strange. It starts with one thing. Sorry. In page 12, the Gemara speaks about Migo. Migo. Page 12, 13a, which talks about Mukas H, as an argument of Mukas H or Dusas Ish. So the Gemara says it's a Migo. According to Rabbi Yochanan, there's no Migo too. So why is believed? There's something unclear here. So then he's showing him here. So why is he believed? So the Gemara says Chazoka, there's no Chazoka here. That's what we spoke about last week. We're going to a little bit elaborate on that because there's no gear to our Hakir in a second. In page 16, there the Gemara is very strange. This Rabbi Kiva Eger points out, very strange Gemara. The Gemara starts with an A and jumps to B. That's Rabbi Kiva Eger's problem. Okay? What the Gemara starts by saying, the Mishnah says, there's an argument to a husband and a wife that 30 years ago when they got married, she was a Besula or Almona. Besula, she deserves now when she gets divorced 200. Almona, she deserves only 100. So there's an argument. So the Gemara says if she brings witnesses that when she got married 30 years ago, with in Inuma or some place, Kloyos, whatever, she brings some kind of proof that she got married as a Besula, she gets 200. The Gemara is medayik, but if she didn't bring a proof, she's not believed. Why? She would believe. So the Gemara answers as Bori and Bori. So here, the Gemara uses a question in one way, and the Gemara later on turns to another way. I will point it out. This is Kivegas Kasha. The Gemara says only the Mishnah says when she brings 80 that she gets married 30 years ago as a Besula, she will get 200. But she doesn't bring 80, the husband is believed. It's like Rabbi Amiel. What do you mean? Rabbi Amiel says, I believe only if you have a migu or you have a chazaka. What migu she has and what chazaka she has. So Rashi right away explains she has chazaka. Again, there's an argument that a woman gets divorced when she's 80 years old. There's an argument 50 years ago when she got married. Nobody's remembered. There's an argument if she got married as a widow or as a basula. So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, if she brings a proof of Eidim, she shows pictures and this and that when the wedding was, she dressed and they acted like a basula. The Gemara brings things that shows basuli, they throw things, the emuna and enuma, whatever she is, so they know it's a basula. So then she wins, but otherwise she doesn't win the case. The Gemara is against Rabbi Amiel. Why is it against Rabbi Amiel? The Gemara on page 12 says, only when Rabbi Amiel said what he said, only when you have a migu chazaka. Right? So where is the migu chazaka here? And Rashi says, so the Gemara says it's against Rabbi Amiel. So Rashi right away there says, time of decaying. Otherwise, the Baal Nemon. It's not like Rabbi Amiel. I'm reading page 16a. Third line from the top of the page in Rashi. The Gemara has a kasha that the Mishnah is against Rabbi Gamliel. Why is it against Rabbi Gamliel? Rabbi Gamliel believes a woman without Eidim. Why, Rashi says? Because you have a suffix at the date of the marriage 30 years ago, 50 years ago. She was a Basula or not, put her in her status that she was born a Basula. So the Gemara decides, the Gemara here, but the Gemara has a kasha that this Mishnah is against Rabbi Gamliel. The kasha is built not on migu. The kasha is built on the inami that the reason of Rabbi Gamliel is chazaka. What do you mean? That's really our beginning point. When the Gemara has two answers, each answer is on its own. There's chazaka. But on those two reasons, I want to explain. When the Gemara is inami, it's not another answer. Inami is where I can use migu. I use migu. When I don't have migu, I use chazaka. When I have both, I have both. But when I don't have both, I'm will not argue. That's the way I will put. Otherwise, what's the Gemara's kasha? Let's see the Gemara's answer. Very strange. This is Kivegas kasha. Kivegas kasha. What the Gemara says? Afilu teima Rabbi Gamliel. Even when it says Rabbi Gamliel, when Rabbi Gamliel says by Bori b'Shema, he is Bori b'Bori. So the Gemara says, what was the half amina? It's not like Bori b'Bori. It says, no, the new Rabbi Gamliel. It says, no, since majority of women, majority of women gets married virgins, so therefore Rabbi Gamliel should admit because of Yaveroi. It's like Bori b'Shem. And the Gemara says, Ochanami nistab, that Rabbi Gamliel will admit that the husband is believed because it's like Bori and Bori. Because why it says Moide Rabbi Yoshua in the end must be that at the beginning Rabbi Gamliel it's Moide. But if Rabbi Gamliel if it doesn't agree to the first word, it's Moide Rabbi Yoshua of the Maskon. So the Gemara says no. You know as Moide Rabbi Yoshua goes on the first chapter. Amigo koi. V'apige karkai kamoy. The Gemara says on which? The Gemara says through the Braises, through the Mishnah. The Mishnah of is a coin, not a coin, which is page 13. The second Mishnah per 13. He said that's the difference. There's not a this is not a question of migu. There's no migu there. Also, my migu ikar ekisa ben shineh. Elamai, it goes on the Mishnah on page 13a of Mukas H. So the Moses says, my migu ikar. According to Rabbi Yochanan, my migu ikar. Elamai goes on the first Mishnah. What's the migu? So the Gemara is changing from Chazaka to migu. The whole kasha was that the Mishnah is not like Rabbi Gamliel, that the woman needs to bring a proof that she was married 30 years ago, that she was a basula without a proof, she's not believed, it's against Rabbi Gamliel. Moses no, it's bori v'bori. So what was the happening about? Moses no, Rabbi Gamliel is not moide on the reish, it's not doing so. What Rabbi Yoshua goes on the first chapter. And which moide is moide, and he says here moide is a good migu. But other Mishnah is not a good migus. We just said that the reason of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yoshua is chazaka. Why the Gemara suddenly jumps to migu and goes through all the Mishnahs and search for the migu? The subject is not migu and goes on through the first Mishnah. That's the migu. But the subject matter is not migu. Sometimes chazaka. How do we jump from chazaka to migu? One second. I just want to summarize this kasha. It's a kasha of Reb Kiva Eiger. Reb Kiva has a kasha. Look on your papers and you can say what you want about Yosef Chaim Schneider. I'm reading the Reb Kiva Eiger is on page 4 Dalet. I'm reading page Dalet and Reb Kiva Eiger. V'hu lo madayin kosher besomuch. Page Dalet and Slavot Kashitz. First column, right side, the first line. V'hu lo madayin kosher. The besomuch hamrinon Eloho anoises haisho. You know Rabbi Shua that says amoide on this migu, but that migu I'm arguing. On which migu he says there I'm arguing here amoide. Which where he's arguing? Where there was a migu that he argues? On the first Mishnah, page 12b, the migu diboy amra mukas eitzani. So when she says misher astani nanashi, she's believed. Mishum ochi, the Gemara. This is the language of the Gemara. Mishum ochi ko amar Rab Gamliel demeinu. What's the word mishum ochi? Therefore, Rab Gamliel said she's believed. The word therefore means that's the reason of Rab Gamliel. Because of the migu. Whoa. That's a case that's not true. For Azina Rabbi Yoshua, Azina Rabbi Yochanan, do Masai Memone Arid Rab Gamliel belav time in the migu. Neemenes. And the Mishnah, the second Mishnah, Mukas 8, according to Rabbi Yochanan, there's no migu. Because even she says she was Mukas 8 before, she still get 200 according to Rabbi Meir. So there's no migu. Keivan the Svira the Mukas 8 Neemenes, the Lake Migu, she gets 200 anyhow. Val Kolcho Atam Shubori Bechazok. That's his kasha. His kasha is what's going on. The Gemara starts with the Chazaka and now suddenly jumps to Migu. Migu, it's okay. And the first Mishnah, page 12. But the page 13, the Mishnah of Mukas 8 is no Migu, has to be Chazaka. V'neida v'chidush del Rabbi Yoshua. Avdi kemigu lo me'emno, Rabbi Yoshua says a chidush. Even though I have a migu by the first Mishnah, I don't believe her. Yet mikol moka besoda, which is Mishnah 16, 15, 16, mehem ole migu. Mikol moka maloshon mishum hochi kom Rabbi Gamliel utamua. The language that Gemara says, you know how Rabbi Gamliel believes her because there's a migu mishum hochi. Means the reason is migu. That's not true. In the second Mishnah, I don't have migu. I have chazaka in the second Mishnah. Which chazaka we don't know yet. We had the Beis Halevi, we had the Ramban. Okay, we're going to play around with it soon. And page 16, Amud Beis the Mishnah. Look at the Gemara on page 16. The Gemara says, you know what's the migu? Where Rabbi Yeshua argued with the migu. And he says, here moidi, although I argue by a migu, there. Here moidi, where's the there? So the Gemara goes through. The Mishnah of Muberes is not the one. The Mishnah of Mukaseitz is not the one. You know where I was arguing that here moidi, I'm arguing Mishnah based on Amud Beis. Our Mishnah, page 12b. And the Gemara says, you know why there? Elo ahot. I'm reading 2, 4, 6, 8. Who appreciate 10, 12, 14, 16, 17 lines at the bottom. It's time to count. 17 lines at the bottom. We'll have to start with a joke. 17 lines on the bottom. The Gemara says, where's there? We're searching the there. Google search. The Rabbi Bavli, Talmud Bavli searching. It cannot be You'd give below of argument of it's a coin, not a coin. There's no migu. Cannot be that the Mishnah of Muka says there's no migu. It goes on the Mishnah page 12b. There is a migu, and the Gemara says which migu? The Gemara says which migu? The migu di by omro mukas eitzani tachtecho dolo kapos nafshu mikuno vekomro nenasi de kapos nafshu mikuno mishum ochi. What's the word mishum ochi? Therefore, komar Gamliel me'emna vekomar Rabbi Yoshua Gamliel b'hoi migu de'ochem oitinolo. There I'm arguing in page 12b. Here I'm admitting. Wait a second. The Gemara two tirutzim. What's the reason why I'm here? Migu or chazaka. If it's or. Either or is machlokes between the terutzim. The Gemara starts asking that the Mishnah page 15b 16 is against Rav Gamliel. Why she need to bring witnesses that she was married with Basula without witnesses? She believes she has a taina. The Gemara says no, because bori and bori. What was the havamina? The Gemara goes down and on. So the Gemara's havamina was that Rav Gamliel is against Rav Gamliel. Of course, he had a chazaka. There's an argument. 30 years ago, I was married to Basula or Beula. I was divorced already or a widow. Okay? So there's an argument about that. She has a chazaka. She definitely was born with Basula. Most probably, 350 years ago, she's a virgin. She has a Basula. She has a chazaka that supports her. In the Mishnah page 16b, right? 15b, 16a. So there I have a chazaka. That was the Gemara's kasha against the Gamliel. The Gemara says, no, it's bori and bori. So the Gemara knew that the reason of Rabbi Gamliel is chazaka. Yeah, the Gemara says, well, you know, where's Rabbi Yoshua Moide? Rabbi Yeshua is not moided to the first part of the Mishnah, he's moided to the previous Mishnah. The Gemara search which one. It goes on the first Mishnah, page 12b. That they found she's not a virgin. He says, before you got engaged, you were dusas ish. He says, no, I was raped after engagement. Rabbi Gamliel believes her. Why? Because migu. Which migu? Believe me that I was raped under you and I deserve 200. I could have said Mukasei Tzachdecha, and I'll be kosher for Cohen. I'll get the same 200. So therefore, it's a good migu. That's the migu. And there, Rabbi Yeshua argues. The Gemara says, why? Because I see the problem. Whatever it is. But here, page 16, I admit to this migu because the migu of Baishosi is the biggest migu. Nobody requests me. There was no tvir konterashi. Of course, there was a tvir, but there's no rai against me. Whatever it is, and the other kind I'm nemon. Here, I'm both on nemon, just better I gave more. Whatever my voice has to explain that, but the Gemara is the nicest medami. So the question on the table is: this really are we starting Hakira? This was all a preface. I'm going to start now and go back to the Hakira. The Hakira was when the Gemara says that the reason of Rabbi Gamliel is migo or chazok. The question is: each reason is on its own. The arguing or migo or chazok, or means when I can find migo, I use migo. When I can find chazok, I have a chazok. We have a rai from page 16. This Arab Kiva is more this. The Lichoiro, the Gemara starts by saying chazok, and the Gemara jumps to migo. Must be two options. It be all really. We'll see. What? I know, Toysa's page 12b doesn't look like that. I know, I'm not now attaching myself to any opinion. I want to first start with the logic problem. We want to have a Hakira and logic. What?
Maybe both a week. Now, both a week. You're not sure.
Oh, maybe you need two, because each one is weak.
Yes.
In a second. Yes, Rabbi Moshe. I can't speak louder.
Why can't we learn that Yeshua understood the Gamliel's migu?
Because what?
Yeshua thought that Gamliel's pshat was migu.
Yes. And?
I didn't realize that pshat was
It's very strange. You know why? Because then, what do you mean? Rabbi Yeshua will admit if he knew that it's chazak. So he's missing information. What?
Yeshua didn't know. Yeshua didn't work with chazak. He worked with chazak, but I always took Gamliel migu.
Okay, but Lemaisa, there is a chazak and Rabbi Yeshua will admit. After now that we know that there's also chazak, Rabbi Yeshua will admit to that. Let's open. That's the next stage. Let's open Gemara Fainei. Very good. Very good. Let's see Gemara Fainei. Please, everyone, open Gemara Fainei. Very important. Mucho importante for our research here. Ayin A, page Ayin A. Please, everyone should open. What? Misha will start with the Mishnah I am with Aleph, we'll go to an am with base. Okay? We see the Gemara here. Yes, Rabbi Yosef Chaim. Schneider.
I want to say it possible way.
Is it Gemara?
I want to say.
Yes.
I mean, why can't you say that the half minute Gemara was Chazaka and Maskon is Nigui? I want to say a question. Why do you say like that?
The Inam is a Maskona.
No, the Havamina of
Of who?
Ivy, Ragamriel, the Moida, is that on that side is Chazaka. Then once you switch, if you switch and say Loy, the Gemara says no, that switches over to the side of me. Why can't you say that?
That's it's in other words. He's saying that both are right, and when I don't use migu, I use chazaka. Say no. Instead of saying when I don't use, say lemog meister gemara is okay. There's no chazaka. I have migu.
No, not both are right. That means that not it has to be one or the other. But
That's what it means. Both are right. One or the other means both are right. One or the other. What does that mean? One or the other?
That means each one is independent. Only this, only that. Like
I agree. Definitely, if you have both, one second, Rabbi Yosef Chaim, if you had both, there's no good. Of course, it could be good, right?
Because if you have one or the other, then you're okay.
Once, if you have both, right? So that's what it means, one or the other. That's what you just said yourself. I mean, I'm the same boat with you, the same chair. If you have both, it's very good. And the Kiddush is one or the other, means I don't need both. I need or this or that. That's what it means.
No, but
that's
each
not
one
logic.
independent. Does not. If these two people will be Ban the Omers,
Yes.
then he would. Each one would say, "No, you're not right." Each one would say, "You're wrong."
Who's each one will say wrong? Rabbi
One
Yoshua?
man who says, "Me good," one man says, each one would say about the other one that you're not right. They cancel the other one, no?
I just brought you a Gemara. The Gemara starts with Chazaka, and then the Gemara uses Rabbi Yoshua, which Rabbi Yoshua argue on Migu.
These two man the Omers talking to each other. The Gemara itself, the first part of the Gemara is Chazaka, and the second part of the Gemara is Migu. They're talking to each
The
other.
Gemara switched without telling us which.
No,
Possible,
the-
very hard.
That's a deep.
And the Gemara and the Rabbi Kiva is medayik the lashon mishum ochi. Because of this, Rav Gamliel said. That was Rabbi Kiva's problem. Mikol mokom aloshoin mishum ochi komar Rav Gamliel the name neum tamua. Utamua, it's a wonder. Mishum ochi is not the only reason. It's one of the reasons. And what he answers, what does Rabbi Kiva's answer? Before we're going to see page Aine, the Gemara answers, Rabbi Kiva answers, Ube'emes, truly. Oyoli mokom loima could have said without choices, that says what? That either way, each answers on its own. Because of the square lashon of the language, Oyoli mokom loima delishlo de migu svire le gamkein de mukas eitz time le mishu chazoko. Migo means lav davka. Migo or could be or migo or chazoko. Which chazoko? And the svira davka mukas eitz chazoko ma'alyo. The lo nivo lo klal. And Mishal Saleh Nasi the ischis asagu because I have chazoko de ashto. Now she's open. And moitzim la yukach migu. He's saying when is a good chazoko? By where? Mukas eitz. Mukas eitz is, she's not a bula. Bula means human being. Mukas eitz, it's a damage by a stick. It's not beila. What? It's external. It's what?
Like the Beis HaLevi.
Kind of a Beis HaLevi. I'm not so sure it's the same svara. But he's saying Mukas eitz is a damage outside from a stick. It's not part of beila. It's not the nature where a woman is prepared for a man to boil her. Derech gever be'alma is the way of human being. Of a woman is a gever that is boiling a woman. She's made, Hashem created to be closed in order for the man to open and she kores his bris. And lo she cuts a bris only with a one boiler. The Gemara that he made a kli, right? And so I forgot the language. The Gemara says that any shasor kli made of a vessel. So it's made for human being to make a vessel, but a stick is not a vessel. See, it's just a bang. She got hurt. It's not bulas much. So it's not against the chazok. That's what Kivega says. He says the second Mishnah has mamish chazok mamach because there's not a chazok of Isa.
Not Chazaka what?
It's not a chazok of Isa. For example, the Mishnah page 16 or the Mishnah, page 13, he says both there the Chazak is very strong. The Chazak was not Isra. Because 30 years ago when she got married, she was a Basula or Almana, right? There's no question on later on that he married her and she became a Bula through him. There's no Be'ila outside beside him. Only there's a Pesach Pasuach, that's a mission, page 12. He marries and he finds it's open. It's a question here. Not he didn't open it was open before. Question, okay, can give answers, this, that, Shoshachut, it's a problem. So the Chazaka was never Isra. I mean, in page 16 and 15, the Chazaka was never Isra. And page 12, the Chazaka is Isra because you find it's open. You have a question on her. She has to give an answer, okay? So there, she wants to say, don't say it happened early, happened later, because Cheskas Besulin I was born with says that it happened later. Which means the Cheskas Aguf needs to determine the time. But we know definitely that the Cheskas Aguf now is Isra. The Gemara says, Tate Lerusa, by a mikveh. I have a mikveh. The mikveh, I checked it now. 10 days ago, I checked it was Arboin said. 10 days later, I checked, now it's missing. The question is the person or the vessel that went inside in between, if the kosher or not. The Gemara says, I have Tate Lerusa. I have mikveh missing now. I have the person or the object which is Tomeh went into the mikveh. So I have Tomeh of the Gavra or the vessel with the Isra now. And when I want to say Cheskas Mikvah of the goof of the Mikvah was fulfilled before. So I have 2 against 1, and the Moses even the Chazaka before is Choser Vasoy, not right away. This is the so you have Tat against 1. So this is what's happening here. Here in the mission page 12, what I have here, I have a woman that right now, she's not a Basula, not through the husband. She's not a Basula. Her famous Beis Yaakov Chazaka is gone. You're not a Beis Yaakov. This opened before. Something is happening. She's not a Beis Yaakov. Okay, she wants to give an answer. I am a Beis Yaakov, but I was raped under you. No, the husband's not. They both agreed that when he came, it was open. They're not arguing. She and he both agreed to that. Okay? Both agreed to that. That was open, not through him. So now, the Chazok is Isa. The question is, you want to use, there was a period of time, like the Rashba said. There was a period of time when she was born, she was a Basula, there's no argument. It was a clean, pure spot that she was a Basula. Now I want to extend it as late as possible. Comes with Kiva Eger and he says, there I have a Reyus at the Chazaka that right now it's open, not through the husband. So there I want to determine and extend the time, that's called a weak Chazaka. It's not Chazaka Ma'al Yasser. Okay? Same thing is not Chazaka Ma'al Yasser. But the mission page 13 and the mission page 15, then the Chazaka is Ma'al Yasser, Element Chazaka. Why is Element Chazaka? Because if there's an argument before the engagement was Mukas AIDS or through a cohabitation of a man, he's saying, I don't have in front of me open through a man, a Be'ila. The first mission is for sure Be'ila. The question is through a rape Be'ila after the engagement or through another man before the engagement Be'rotza. Okay, so it's a Be'ila there. Question is when? A kosher Be'ila, a half kosher Be'ila, or no good, puzzle Be'ila. And page 13, why I have a case where there's a question, or was a Be'ila? Or was it hit by a stick? Hit by a stick is not a Be'ila. Hit by a stick is not a Be'ila. It's not Bula. It's not Bula. It's open, but not a Be'ila. So therefore, according to her claim, she's not Bula's Baal. V'ine Bula's Baal. She's not Bula's Baal. She's not cohabitate by man.
She's not a Basula.
But it's not the question. But she's not a Basula, but she's not a Bula's Baal. What breaks the Basulim, she has Cheskas Basula means I transfer Basulim not through she was born to be complete and not being broken by a man yet. So I say, this woman is a great woman, you have to give her 200, she deserves a lot, a big moya. Why? Because Basula means a negative. She's Basula and no man touched it. Like the Gemara says, okay, she was a Basula, ve'adam lo yadam, no man knew her. Basula means not in a positive, in a negative. Basula means
no, that's a deal.
But this is the power of Chazak. This Chazak that Kiva Eger says by the first Mishnah I don't have the Besula reference. There's no Bulas Baal. And the second Mishnah I have Chazak Ma'al. And the second Mishnah means in page 13 that there's an argument is Mukas H or Bulas Baal. There, according to her claim, she never lost the chazok. So she has a support to chazok to her statement of mukas eitz chascheskas not bulas ba. What do you want to say, Daniel? What? Speak loud.
It's only according to her claim, so it is a bit of a rehearsal. Because if you put the Matthias of that she lost her Batuli, and also his claim, it's
right. But at page, and you're right. But at page 12, they both agree that it came through Bilas Baal. At page 12, there's an argument if she's Bilas Baal or not.
I hear the difference, but it's still a bit of a rehearsal.
Yeah,
Why is it not a bit of a rehearsal?
It rehearsal because maybe it's not common. Let's say to make it easy in your mind. Let's say it was common to be hit by a stick. Okay? Like the Beis Halevi says, because a rape, there's a voice. There's no voice here. Berotzoin, kosher woman, she has kaskashus. So what the Svara says was it was hit by a stick. Kind of is more roiv, more common than oines, which is there's no voice. This is muted like Rabbi said, muted or shchiach, and this is more mute shchiach.
And he's a Shema.
What? And he's a shem, and she's a body. So there, but the point is not, it's like somebody asked me, is this the Beis Halevi Svara? It's not a Beis Halevi Svara. It's like I want to say, part of nature is a woman bang themselves. It's part of nature. And in the banging, like Rabbi Fancy said, it's potential, in the banging, it's potential to lose the besulim. So it's all there. I said how do you call kol kavua? It's there. It's by every woman, it's there. That potential is there, it's kavua. Imeila, it's there. So I'm saying is, if Kiveg is saying, what is really, let's go back to what our subject is. Our subject is, when the Gemara has two tirutzim, is it each terutz arguing? Each terutz is moisif? Or no, not moisif and not arguing. You need both. When I don't have one, I can use the other. Both are true. When he says inam, it means if I have both, not I have both. It's great. But I need to have either one. One of them will succeed, Rabbi Gamliel's shita. Or migo, and if I don't migo, I can have chazok. But if not, no chazok, no migo, then Rabbi Gamliel's moited Rabbi Yoshua. What?
It's like Tzad HaShaveh.
Tzad HaShoveh, like, okay, I would like the word Tzad HaShoveh. So now, Rabbi Kiva Eger is saying, really, what is he really answering? What is Rabbi Kiva Eger is really answering? He says, according to my understanding without Tosfos, I would say that the second Mishnah had Rabbi Yav Chazoko, and the first Mishnah Yav Migu. So what really he's saying is really saying that the first Mishnah has Chazoko or Migu, right? And the Chazoko is a weak Chazoko. It's not a good Chazoko. The second Mishnah, according to Rabbi Yochanan, there's no Migu, but you have a best, good Chazoko. Better Chazoko, Chazoko Alinto. What really is saying, and I will translate, so if I want to translate it in logic of, we have two tirutzim in the Gemara, Migo Chazoko. What really is saying, the first Mishnah, I have a Migo, or I have a weak Chazoko, not Chazoko Alinto. But since I have both, I have Chazoko not Alinto, plus I have Migo, both, because both exist. So it's great, so I can use, which means the Inami Chazoko, which is not a Chazoko Alinto, I don't care that Chazoko Alinto. Why? Because I don't have a support of a migu. So the main svor is the migu, and chazok is just a siyata. That's the Gemara page 16. Use migu. That's really what he answered. That's my understanding. My understanding is what Rabbi Kiva Eger's answer to the kasha. The Gemara started with chazaka jumps to migu, right? The answer is because the chazaka there is not chazaka linta. So the inami is a siyata. The inami, the chazaka there is a siyata. It's not a real svor. The second Mishnah has no migu, but has a good chazaka. The second Mishnah has both, but no, you don't really have both. Because the inami, the chazaka is a weak chazaka. It's not a chazaka alinta. So that's why, since the chazaka alinta, that's why the Gemara at page 16, when it says Rabbi Yeshua's moedet to the first Mishnah, the Gemara used migu. Why do you want to use chazaka when it starts with chazaka? Because the chazaka is not a good chazaka. I'd rather use the S400, not the S300, the first edition, which is weak. I want to use the best missile. I want to, this is siyata, that's not chazok alimta. So I said, that's what we're really saying. By not chazok alimta, let's say I find a case. Yes, Rabbi, if I find a case that is no migu, and a chazok alimta. Now, Bamliel will say what he said. According to this, maybe not. That's how we're answering. Why did Gemara jump from Chazoka to Migu, because could be that when it's not when I don't have a Migu, and I have only Chazoka and Alimta, I won't use that. When I use only Chazoka, I don't care. Mishnah page 13, because there the Chazoka is Alimta. Because Mukas 8 does not steal the Chazoka. But when I have a bad Chazoka, so I don't rely on it, I rely on Migu. What do you want to say, Rabbi? I can't hear. Maski, but where am I maski? I'm not here to maski manan. I'm here. I want to abstract the possibilities. That's what my goal of this year is. I want to use we now in the world of Derech Higoyin, right, Rabbi Fenster? When I'm learning answering, I have to use in my mind all the options. Then I use 1 second. I want to hear you in a second. Or I don't. I will heard you. And now I have to search in the Rishonim if those options are true or not true and exist. He asked me now on Machia if this law is a good tzvah. I'll tell you in a second. I didn't think about that sense. What? Yes. It's fake seker? Yeah. So when you the Rosh Hashanah, right. Okay. I'll explain in a second. I'll jump. This is the end of the shir to bring the Rashba. We start with it. Rashba of cheese. Will explain that this chazok is built on wood. I'll explain in a second. One second. I'll get to that. Yes, Lavan. Yes. 1 second.
Okay, so the only reason why Rabbi Gamliel realizes the Mikvah in the first mission is because the Chazaka is...
Yeah, you speak loud.
So the reason why Rabbi Gamliel realizes the Mikvah is just because it's a bad Chazaka, but the Chazaka, we don't need the Mikvah.
Yes. So according to this, when the Gemara says Inami, means it's a moisif. It's not another answer on its own. We said a few options. Or Migu or Chazaka. Each one argue. Could be on one wall's Migu is not Chazaka, one wall's Migu. Or he's saying moisif means, not moisif, no, it's the last option. Or we're saying you can have either one. Or Migu or Chazaka can win. We're not arguing. Rather, he's saying I can use one of them, it's already enough for me. Or no, he's saying I cannot use either one because the second one, Chazok, is a bad Chazok. So when the Gemara says Inami, it's a moisif, another svara we have to the Migu. So I know Migu is also bad Chazok. But when I want to rely, and that's why the Gemara on page 16 never used this Chazok because it's only a moisif. But when the Chazok is a good Chazok, like the second Mishnah, page 13, then I can use Chazok. Yes, Rabbi. This is really what we see. This is Kivay, not me. He's explaining in our terms what he's saying. Yes, Rabbi.
Kivay is saying that according to the Mishnah,
yes.
That is Migo.
Yes.
That Mishnah holds a docket. That doesn't mean that the Inami is coming to be moist.
So you tell me how we answer this kasha. This kasha was the Gemara starts with a chazaka and the Gemara jumps to migu. That was his kasha, right? And when he said his kasha was we call mokem aloshoy the mishum ohi kom the meheno utamua. The Gemara says that's the because of this, because of migu, Rami is believed. It's not because. It can be because of migu, it can be because of chazaka. As the Gemara started, that was the kasha, right? So when he says, I have an answer that the first Mishnah is a good chazaka. I mean, the second Mishnah is a good chazaka. The first Mishnah is not a good chazaka. So how does he answer? So what was the answer? So the answer I understand is, what it means, this is what I'm trying to explain here. What is, to understand the depths of Kivega, what is really he's answering here? He's answering that really, when I have a good chazaka, like the Mishnah page 16, or the Mishnah 13, when they have good chazokas, chazokah me'al yasa, there, Erochanami can be or migo or chazokah. And if there's no migo, I have chazokah. But in Mishnah page 12b, there the chazokah is not me'al yasa. Because right now they both agree, Pesach Patur, that she was nival, she's be'ula's ba. She's be'ula, nivala by a limb of a man. She's a be'ula. So therefore, there's a be'ila here, there's a maisa be'ila, the question how? So therefore, you have Isra, Tante, you have Chazokah Dash to Isra. So the Chazokah Mahal, the Chesmas is Isra right now, right? You have Isra. So is Isra and the Chesmas Besuli. So the Chazokah is weak. There I say, I'm a Migu. And there Rabbi Meir relies on the Migu mainly. And that's what Gemara page 16, the Gemara uses Bishum Ochi. What is Bishum Ochi? the punchline, the straw that broke the camel's back. What is the factor? Avraham always believes not chazok, because chazok is a chazok imalias. It has to be the migu. That's because of mishum ochi, because of the migu kol. So that's what's the inami. The is moisif. Not only migu, I also have chazok, or another option, or that I can tell the migu's weak. As we're going to see in the Rishonim, the mizmigaloitzi. And not only that, the Gemara at page 16 says, "My shnoi migu, my migu." The Gemara says the migu is bad migu. Why? Because according to both claims, I'm not believed. Mukas AIDS, I'm not believed, and Drusas Nasi Tachtechos also I'm not believed. So it's not one, believe me one time because I couldn't claim another time I was believed in it, and the other time you both not believed. That was the argument here. Just I have more of I'm not posulukuno. It's more time than meruvachas, but not more. One is believed or not. So it's not a good migu. It's a shoshot lefanecho, as Rashi says there, right? It's a bad migu. Number two, the Rishonim says a migu loitzi. So the first migu is a bad migu, migu loitzi. Number two is shoshot lefanecho. So then, instead of saying the inami, instead of saying inami moisif, I'm saying inami mechazik. So now we say a new option. That the inami is not moisif. The real time is migu. It's not a kiveh. Kiveh says the real time is migu. And chazok is just a chizu, but real time mishumok is a migu. Couldn't we saying now that migu is migu loitzi, the shem is migu loitzi? So the third possibility, we said or migu or chazoka, machloikes, or each one on its own can work, or the main thing is the migu because the chazoka is weak, or no, the migu and the chazoka both together, combination, combina, together with a combina, I can make something. Why would combina make something? Because the migu is migu loitzi, and it's migu shol lefanecho, and the chazoka mal yaseh. Whoa! So together I make a mishmash. Together works, and the chanam mistama goes up both.
The inami is strong because
What?
the inami is that the chazok is strong
Yes.
because the migu. That's what you're saying now.
The chazok will be strong because I have amigo is mesayel amigo. This is a kivega. There's another possibility which I didn't mention until now. A fourth possibility, a quantro, aber fourth possibility that the migo is weak because it's migo loitzi, and the chazok is weak because the kivega is not a chazok maliyasa. So I need both. The inam means, and I have another reason. Don't worry, even though migo is weak, but then I also have chazok weak. Together, I can dance and make something new, and I win. And I cannot be stopped. But, according to this fourth possibility, the kasha in page 16 still stays. Was mishumachi? If you know chazok, it's not mishumachi. It can be migu and chazok, mishum migu and chazok and mishumachi. If both of the language on page 16, that's what Kiva's point. The language on page 16, it's a raya lichoiro that the migu is the main. And the chazok is a siyata. That's a giver, his point. He says, he says, Avalaha, Toises was Svirleke, Vashem Yorenein, Hashem will light my eyes, which was the Gemara is against Toises. Toises in page 12b below seems to be holding that depends. According to Rav Nachman is a mi, according to Rav Yochanan, the Mishnah later on is chazaka, which means each one works. Hashem Yoreneinu. Because the Gemara at page 16, the Gemara writes bestoma, stoma the Gemara. The Gemara says, migu mishum achi. So it's against the Chayot Toisa, Hashem Yoresanein, Hashem needs to lighten her eyes against the way Toisa learn. What? But when the Gemara uses mishum achi, the language mishum achi, therefore, is not a correct language. Hashem Yoreneinu, Reb Kiva says, Hashem needs to light on her eyes. What? Women love dafka. I can when it was said Mishumach, I can be lav dafka. I said, therefore! He says, Rabbi, it's not therefore. Lav dafka. I said, therefore means dafka.
That's all.
Normal, it's a hard language.
Hard language.
I will say, how can they kach, if Giva stays with Hashem, Hashem needs to light my eyes.
I understand.
Hashem needs to light my eyes. Because he says, what can I do? I know Toysus doesn't say so. And possibilities, I have all possibilities. But if you learn the Gemara well, this is it. We didn't first finish learn page Ayin Eya Mudar on base. I want to do that, and then we're going to go back to the Ma'arit, and then we'll go to the Yoshua. Yes.
I say a different possibility to Gam.
Yes, Rabbi.
Really, why there was two answers.
Yes.
One answer is to answer the kasha, and the second says
Which kasha? Layman, whatever the layman is.
And the second answer is no kasha b'chlal. One answer, one is a teretz.
Why Migo the Teretz and Chazor? I hear, Rabbi. Very good. I like this answer, but tell me, explain yourself. Why the Migo is an answer and Chazor is no kasha b'klal?
One answer is that is an answer the kasha. And a kasha stira. Here's a different. Here's chazorka. Here's the because
No, the first answer is
First
Migo.
the Migo. First the Migo's of time on the kasha says. And the many time message is even against cheskas moment.
Yeah.
The second answer, the kasha should have started. Yeah, the kasha, Steve the Sugyas, and the Gemara. So Inami, the kasha, the Gemara never started. The Gemara instance. You have a kasha from here, the kasha never started. Why? Because you have cheskas, like the Tosfos Rit says. The cheskas Mamoin, a cheskas aguf. A cheskas aguf is stronger than the cheskas Mamoin. This is not like the Tosfos Rit. So this, I explained the Gemara. You made a quote in this answer.
And then Migo, and what's for Migo?
And what I gain.
One second. I want to explain to myself and everybody else what I understand from what you said. I want to frame it in my understanding, which I like your answer. Another possibility that it's really holding both are good answers. Just the Migu, it's a raya. Migu, it's a proof. Chazok is not a proof. Chazok is a rule of law, right? So it's a way to act, Hanoga, the way to act. So the first answer is, Rabbi says, you know why I'm winning Cheskas Momoin? Because against Cheskas Momoin, I have a proof of Migu. Stop. I want to explain what you have. I want to frame. I agree to what you say. I like this possibility. I don't think it's true in the Gemara, but possibility. Inami, the answer is Inami, no. And I don't have a proof against it. The kasha never starts because I hold chazokas anhoga. If I have two anhogas, I have anhoga of cheskas momoin and anhoga cheskas aguf. Cheskas aguf wins all chazokas. Which, according to Rav Gamliel,
Bari like Rama.
right?
If from Bari you can't win. Sure not. Bari can't win.
True. You have to explain that. This is going to come to the Pnei Yeshua. We have to explain what is it after we had all those hakiras. What is the Gemara's answer? Our next stage, which is the last part of the shir, should be is what really does it. The bori, the shema, the good bori, the bad shema, the migo with a good bori, the migo with a bad shema, the chazaka alone, or the chazaka with a bori, or chazaka with a bad shema against the bad shema. All this has to be choik. It's not my chakir. All this is what's his name? Abachon and all that. But that's already second stage. After we see that all those shitas of machlokes showing me the other possibilities, you have to now what's pshat in this Gemara here in a second. We have to moichia. So before we go to that stage with the help of Hashem, I want to see page 75, please, A and B. Okay, because there the Gemara has language. We have to put in our consideration in our calculation. 75A, please. Ayin A, Amud Aleph, the Mishnah. The Mishnah says there's an argument between the father of the girl and the husband. All you bomumim, there was blemishes. They found blemishes. Ve'oido b'beit Savio, and she's still in the house of her father. She got engaged, but she didn't do nisuin yet. The father needs to bring a proof that it happened after the engagement and the field was ruined of the husband. She entered the domain of the husband, which was Nesuim. She brought her to his house. And then they found the blemishes. The husband needs to bring a proof that it happened before the engagement, and it's a mistake, a mekachtos, a mistake by. Therefore, we're not going to give a ksuba. And that's it, Divi Rabbi Meir. Chachamim say it depends. Depends which type of blemishes. When you write Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Meir. You write Rabbi Meir that when they found the mumim in the husband's domain, so then we assume that it happened there, and therefore the husband needs to bring a proof. But when I find it before, so the father of the groom needs to make a proof that it happened later. If she's already in the domain of the husband, so we assume that happened in the domains of the husband, he has to bring a proof. But if it was before the husband, if she got engaged, but it's not in the domain of the husband, means she didn't enter the house, she didn't move to his house, that's Nisuim. What we do in Nisuim, we have a canopy, we have a yichudum, that's his house, that's his room, that's where he has to rent the place, that she's bringing to his house. And according to a lot of Rishonim, it's not even there when she goes home, and everybody knows she goes home, it's Yador Akul, he goes to his house, that's really the Nisuim. Today, nowadays. And anyhow, Chacham agree to that. They say only if it's mum shebeseisen. Mum shalogolo, if it was out seeing blemishes, eno yochol yitoin, you cannot claim because you knew about it and you're appeased. Let's say she had a bump behind the ears. So the hair covers it, but sometimes you see it. If he knows her all the time, or who knows what, somewhere that he can see, if it's out there, but let's say it's somewhere that most likely he can see, and he knows her, somebody that knows her definitely will see, and he claims it happened before or after. She said it happened after. I deserve 200 as before. It's mekachtos. You don't deserve. We assume he saw it and he appeased. Yesh merchot, but if there's a bathhouse in the city, he cannot even claim because they used to take the woman to a bathhouse to check her to check, and therefore he cannot claim that he didn't know about it. And there's an argument what happened. He knew about it and he was waiting. Okay, that's not so important. What's important is the Gemara. Taima de Maisi Avraya. The Gemara says the reason is because the father brought a proof. Alo Maisira, he didn't bring proof. Abal Meima. Again, I found the mummy in the domain. I find the mummy in the domain of the husband. Okay? Sorry. I found the mummy in the domain of the father because there was engagement but not a marriage, not a suite. He didn't bring it to the house. So I found it after the engagement but before the marriage. So who needs to bring a proof? The father means the father of the girl. Means the girl's side needs to bring a proof that the blemishes was there. And therefore, after the engagement, and therefore she deserves 200. But without a proof, she loses. Moses says why? All of my siyavrai, but if the father of the girl did bring a proof, Abal Me'eman, the husband is believed. Mani Rabbi Yeshua, it's against Rabbi Gamliel, follows Rabbi Yeshua, not Rabbi Yeshua. Doma lepianu chayim. Stop. That's not Gemara's kasha, but I just ran away through this one. But the Gemara says, comes out that without the proof of the father of the girl is not believed. Why? That's Rabbi Yeshua. She has Chesed Saguf. And why she's not believed must be Rabbi Yeshua. And he has Chesed Saguf without being born without blemishes. Ema Seifa. Look in Rashi. The first big line. I mean, the 4 lines on the top. והוא אומר עד שלא רסתיך מפינו חיים שתן אמס אלא העד מומן על חזקוסו ולא עזינו בו שחזוק כדגופו לא אם העולזו בידינו על שהסירוסין מהי העם מן הגול חזקוסו שקוראים לכם. Rabbi Yeshua says, although in the first mission, page 12, you have chazokah, I don't follow chazikas haguf. And I don't say she has a chazokah v'arinoid lebesul, she was born a besulo. Ve'ochenami. Here also, lo amrino lahem et guf al chazkosav lemuno, she was the same way she was born without being a virgin. She was born a virgin. She was also born without blemishes, because nimtzu mumi has to say mumi that being grown later on, mumi that came later on. Not blemishes are born. Not born blemishes. Now let's say, for example, another finger. It's called Eitz B'Yaseya. Not Eitz B'Yaseya. Let's say she has a broken, she has a cut. Right? That's a mum that came later on. It was born mum shenoilat. Mum shenoilat. So l'choyro you have when you don't know what happened. She was born besulo. You say it happened later. She was born with no blemishes. You assume it happens later, possible. And yet, without a proof of the father of the girl, we don't believe the girl. That's against Rabbi Gamliel. It's like Rabbi Yoshua. That I don't follow Cheskas Aguf. I follow Rabbi Cheskas Mammon.
But my question is...
One second.
Why is this chazaka the mum number? There's not chazaka. Could be a lot of people born mumim. Is that how you say the chazaka?
I just want to finish the Ikar. Gemara, just one more point, a few more lines. I just want to mention Rabbi Yoshua. The Gemara says here that you can jump. Omar Rove. Lo teima Rabbi Yoshua lo zilbos chazok edugufa klal. Don't learn that Rabbi Yoshua doesn't follow cheskes edugufa at all. Eloki lo Rabbi Yoshua chazok edugufa eichedik cheskes mamoino. Avalei the lake chazok edugufa mamoino zil Rabbi Yoshua bos chazok edugufa. Stop. So what the Gemara is really answering, the Gemara says, Rabbi Yoshua argument against Rabbi Gamliel, he says, I hold cheskas momon overcomes cheskas aguf. But when there's no cheskas momon, Vadai, I follow cheskas aguf. He doesn't say that it was out. And Toysus says that on the spot. Look in the third Toysus in the top. Very important Toysus. Sorry. 1, 2, it's actually 4 Toysus. The small Toysus also counted. 4 Toysus on the top. Pirush, explanation. I read in Toysus the Pirush. Even though you have another chazok against cheskes aguf, kiyocha, here, you have a chazoko against cheskes aguf. The belav cheskes moment is chazoka acheres. The namideno b'cheskes pnuyo. Which means I have cheskes moment plus chazoka that she's again. When there's no cheskes moment, I follow cheskes aguf. Pirush. Even though there's no cheskes moment, there's another chazaka. Keneg cheskes aguf. Kiyocha. Which here, if I don't have cheskes moment that fights cheskes besulim, which chazaka I have that fights cheskes besulim? The belav cheskes moment is chazaka acheret. The amiten of cheskes pnuya. She has a chazaka that she was a pnuya. How to say pnuya? Single mingle. Single. She has the amel of cheskes pnuya. She's single. So then, if I have cheskes pnuya single against cheskes aguf, then Rabbi Yeshua will admit that cheskes aguf overcomes all the other chazakas besides cheskes moment.
I don't understand.
Lo alima lecheskes aguf, the dafka ki cheskes momon, lo alima lecheskes aguf cheskes momon. Avaleche de lecheskes momon alima lecheskes aguf shachazokas. So one second, what we have from places here, there's levels. There's an argument between Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Gamliel. If I have cheskes momon against cheskes aguf, who wins? Cheskes momon is Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Gamliel is cheskes aguf. But even Rabbi Yoshua admits that cheskes aguf is one of the most powerful chazokas. That if I have cheskes aguf against cheskes pnuya or the chazokas, cheskes aguf wins. He only says that cheskes momon is the highest, and Rabbi Gamliel says cheskes aguf is the highest. But definitely cheskes aguf is a strong chazok against all the chazokas. That's what we got from page 65b. Sorry, 75b. Okay? There's another part we have to learn, but not going to do it right now because we don't have much time. You need to learn it in order for the Shashmaitzes. There's a lot of Shashmaitzes, base and Gimel. There's a Shashmaitzes when I want to do Bezat Hashem next week, even though I wanted to finish the Sugyos I saw. There's a nice Shashmaitzes, base and Gimel, long Shashmaitzes, and Vav too. And I want everybody to see the answer that he gives, a definition, what is Kanimtza Kanoyo, and you have to prepare in base. The Nesivis and our flaw, there's a whole, in the last page in our papers. Im yesh din kanitza kayo b'isur. There's Terazgiti, Chidush HaFlaw, there's a big Shav Shmaitze here in this. What is the svor of kanitza kanoyo? There's Gemara now, later on it pushes it. It says, there's a svor of kanitza kanoyo, and the Shav Shmaitze is on our page 1212. Why we need Chazok and Migu? Forget about Chazok and Migu. I have here Kanitza, I happen to engage because I found the not Besulim here in this domain under him. According to the Gemara's answer there. This we have to solve. And what's a svor of Kanitza Kanoyo? And what is the definition of domain? Domain of Mammon, domain of Reshus of Baal, Chotzer. We'll go into that. This is the show of Shmaitze, Machlis Rishonim, etc. We're going to deal with that next week. Next week was
the day after
the day after Binyoma.
There's going to be a
Vadai. You have to go back to learn. There's no hefker.
just making sure.
Yeah.
What about Torah Skitin?
As that was, I said, Torah Skitin na floor in the Shav Shmaitzes. But let's go back to us. Now we go back to our Hakira, our problem. What is Pshat and Agavo? So we said all those different opinions. I want to see now together, everybody together, the Marit. Okay? That's on the Marit. And you right away going to tell me what the Marit learns after we had all those Hakiras. And then Hashem gives us some time to learn the Pnei Yeshua. Okay? Let's see. Void Kosh, it's in page Dalet, the Marit. Void Kosh. Void Kosh. The Ashta Amrino. Yes. Yes. This is very important, Mari. You guys did it? You did it. Here the Mari, it takes one of our Hakiras, sides of the Hakiras. And he really proves it. An observation. But after his question and he gives an answer, he holds this opinion, this action. Void Kosh. The Ashta Amrin and the cave like Chazok and the Guf from Moedam Gamliel. What do we learn? We learned that the whole reason why Rab Gamliel believes the father, the Gemara says the Mishnah is against Rabbi Yoshua. So why Rab Gamliel says I believe the father of the girl?
I don't believe.
The cave and the lake Chazok and the Gufo. If there isn't Chazok and the Gufo, in the case when I don't have Chazok and the Gufo, Rab Gamliel admits that the father needs to bring a proof. We said, the Mishnah says the father needs to bring a proof. Without a proof, he's not believed. It's like Rabbi Yoshua. But according to Rabbi Gamliel, the father doesn't need to bring a proof. Because he's believed. Because it's Chazok and the Gufo. But when there's no Chazok and the Gufo, Rabbi Gamliel admits that the father needs to bring a proof. That's the Gemara's, that's an analysis. So he says, Afal Gab, the Bori B'Shema. The father of the girl is Bori, and the husband doesn't know he's the Shema. Garua maybe. Why Garua? I don't know.
He doesn't know.
Doesn't know. He can't know, so why is Garua? Garua, when you could know and you don't, and you make yourself you don't know. It's good. Ve'ho Poli Rab Gamliel. Ve'ho, he has a kasha. Ve'ho Poli Gamliel bi Omer Esmu Kaseitzan. Ve'ho Omer lo ikir ladus hashisha. The Chazok and the Gufa leis. The Molo Shachari boil. He says, he has a kasha. The second Mishnah, page 13, there's an argument, there's Mukas Eitz, Adusas Ish. There's no Migo there, there's no Chazaka. There's no Chazaka. And yet, you believe, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Meir believes it must be, because Bori B'Shema, the Bori, she's a Shema. And she's a Bori and he's a Shema. He doesn't bring Migo. There's no Migo, there's no Migo. There's no Migo, no Chazaka. Must be Bori B'Shema, sir. So why do you say that without Cheskas Guf? Rab Gamliel is admitting that I don't believe the woman, I don't believe the father of the woman, of the girl, I don't believe the woman, the father of the girl. Without Chazaka, not true, you should believe the father of the girl, just the fact that he's a boy, the other one is Shema. Like we see by the second Mishnah, Mukasei, there's no Migu, and there's no Chazaka, yet Rab Gamliel believes, because the boy is Shema alone. Rabbi Yochanan, yes.
I kind of think he probably knows, but let's say, but okay, whatever. There are those who say that according to Rabbi Yochanan, you do have a Chazaka.
I know that, but he doesn't. We'll see what he said in a second. That's what he answered. The main thing is the answer. The awesome nami ikalami the becheskas kashos lakun is like the first answer of the Beis Halevi. Okay, he says really in the second Mishnah by Mukas age is cheskas kashos lakun. Yeah, but what's important for us is not that. Now we're learning from the Beis Halevi. What we want to know is our second part of a hakira. Our hakira was, what is it? The chazaka, the migu is Messiah Chazal, so I'm saying the migu, and what about the Bori Hashem? Where I position Bori and Hashem? So listen what he says. This cheskas kashrus is not cheskas aguf, like we learned on page 75, that cheskas aguf, even Rabbi Yeshua admits, is stronger than all the chazakas. שהגוף כבר נשתנה ממנו שם. וחזוק הדין עליו חזקה זה גופי. Cheskas the Din is not Cheskas Aguf. Even Rabbi Yeshua admits that when I don't have Cheskas Momo and just a Cheskas Aguf, it wins all Chazokas. Which Chazok is Cheskas Din? And here, Cheskas Kashu is not Cheskas Aguf, that is a strong Chazoko. There's only Cheskas what? Din, law, that she has a Din, that she's kosher for a Kohen.
Kanitza Kaneh is also the same thing.
We'll see.
Din,
We'll see next week.
Aguf.
The kosher loima, the Chazoko zu yoil, keneged Cheskas Momo. Wow. It cannot be that Gamliel is so far out from Rabbi Yoshua that not only Cheskas Momen wins, Cheskas Aguf wins Cheskas Momen, even Cheskas Din would win Cheskas Momen. That's too much. You want to make some to the Machloikis. Rabbi Yoshua says Cheskas Momen is stronger than Cheskas Aguf. Rabbi Gamliel says Cheskas Aguf is stronger than Momen. But to say that Rabbi Gamliel says not only Cheskas Aguf is more than Cheskas Momen, even Cheskas Din, that she's kosher l'kohuna, is stronger than Cheskas Momen. That's too much, that he doesn't want to say that. The kosher loyim, what's the word kosher lomar? Is far out. We don't want to say that. We want to mitzamtza the machloikas, by nature. Im loy, rabbis, talmidei chachomim loy, mitambori v'shemo, Tarvayu behade hadode, mehani, both of them equal works. What is the word equal? He could have said mitam bori v'shema a kombina. He could have. I know that. He could have said the bori v'shema is the main, and he said behade hadode, mehani lafukim amoino. Aval tam the bori v'shema lekudoloi. I said behade hadode. One second. I'm going to say the meiri. I don't have the meiri in front of me. I don't have the Meiri in front of me, but I saw one of the Achronim quotes the Meiri. The Meiri says a language, I saw a couple of days, I just like slip in my mind this word, that the Meiri says, the Bori V'Shema is Ika. Ika Asvora Basugya is Rav Gamliel believes the Bori V'Shema. Although it's not doimet to the Bori V'Shema of Rav Un and Rav Yudo and Rav Nachman, Rav Yochanan and Nachman, it's not doimet, because I also have a Migon, I also have Chazokes. But still, the Iker Asvora, Rav believes the woman, the Iker Asvora is because the Bori and Shema. But the Mari doesn't say that, Rabbi Abraham said. What he does say, Rabbi, what does he say?
Together.
I'm asking him, please. You also don't know. I also don't know.
What's the practical
But he says, he definitely doesn't say Iker. I know definitely it's Mafkiah from the Miri. He just says, Ela imloi mitam Bori v'Shema letarvayu be'ad ha'adode.
Say it with an English, with the main English.
Not Bori and Shema alone, both of them together. Bori and Shema, Bori against Shema with Chazoko or with Migu. I'm adding Migu, but that's the point. Even Cheskas Din. Normally, if I have, which means like this, Rabbi, you know what we gain here from the Marid? People don't realize what the Marid is saying. What the Marid is really saying? He's saying if I have Cheskas Aguf, fighting Cheskas Mocha, I don't need to come up to Bori V'Shema. Because it's a big muscle. Yes, but Cheskas Din. To say that wins Cheskas Mocha, that's too much.
No, he rejected that.
One second.
Hashem alone, he rejected.
What?
The Marit rejected Baruch Hashem alone. But that's why he says V'yesh Loimar. That was the Kasha. The Kasha was Baruch Hashem alone. The Teretz is V'yesh Loimar.
That one, the awesome Nami Ika. Now, and he says, what is Nami Ika? Now, if I want to analyze the Mari, this is why I want to analyze it. Let's see if you can argue with me or agree with me and bring a proof against me. That the Mari is really saying that really, according to Rav Gamliel, when I have Cheskas Aguf, I don't need Bori Hashem. Cheskas Aguf wins Cheskas Momen. What? But the second Mishnah doesn't have it. So they have a new solution. A combina. They come together. So when I have together Cheskas Din, not Cheskas Aguf, Cheskas Din, which is a lower type of Chazokah, together with Bori against Shema, then Tarvei works. So if I'll ask you now, I want the Mari Tzal Machakira, yes. The Mari hold. That when the Gemara says Chazokah, Inami Chazokah, it's Chazokah alone, without Bori Hashem. I don't have to comment on that. The second Mishnah, when the Chazokah is not Cheskas Aguf, it's Cheskas Din, then I need a combina. Now I want to roll according to the Mari, go be the first hit. According to Maharit, I have a migu. One second, you can argue with me, I will hear you in a second. Just let me finish my piece. But when I have a migu, when I have only a migu, together with Bog Hashem, do I need a Bog Hashem or do I need a migu alone?
Amigo to what?
Exactly.
To
So
what?
I agree with you. By migu is a migu, it's a raya to the time, like you said, Shleim. Migu is a raya to say, you have to have the bogi. If migu is only a siyata, what is a migu? Believe me, what I'm saying, chazok is on its own. It's a achor, it's not a raya. So by the migu is definitely migu with bogi v'shema. By chazok it's on its own, unless it's cheskas needs, you have to come into bogi v'shema. It's an anogo. Chazok is not a raya. Chazok is not a proof. Chazok is it's an hogo. How to act? How to act is a solution. Do I need that solution with a body or it's on its own? So when I have cheskas aguv, it's on its own. When I have cheskas need, I can come on to it. Kombinayu tarvayu ba'ad adode. But yes,
because you knocked out the whole basis of the kasha. They're arguing about the tainas, and you knocked the whole tainas out. You said, that's crazy.
no, I'm saying the reason why I salvaged, I believe, the woman is not the word tainas anymore. Is because hanoga. When I have tainas and I have seikis, the hanoga of cheskas aguf overrides the hanoga of cheskas momoy, and that determines the story. I don't have to come at the Bogin Shema. But when there's only cheskas did, I have to come Bogin Shema. But Migo I have to come Bogin Shema because Bogin Shema is because a right to the time. So you need to have. But Chazoke is Hanoga. When I don't know what to do, what sounds? I follow Chazokas. Chazokas don't need claims. Maybe if I have a bad claim, one second. When I have a bad claim, we're going to see Bezrat Hashem next week. When I have a bad claim, Kubi destroys. It destroys. It's like shooting on myself. When I have a bad Shema Gahua, things like that, it's a reus. But in general, Chazoke, it's Hanoga. When you don't know what to do, you money. So the Chazoke doesn't need a help of Bori and Shema. We say you're right. The Magi says you're right. When I have inami the cheskas aguf, I don't need Bog v'Shema.
That is what it's for, but
What?
it's not hooking the notion of the mission.
Why?
It's not mathematics.
Lo mi pio from my mouth.
For Rabbi Yeshua, yes, but not for Rabbi yes.
Why?
Rabbi Yeshua is saying the Nemenet is...
It's a result. Nemenet can be a result. Can be a result.
No, it's not a result. It's a tainer.
Yes. Okay. So now the Chazoka determines the money to which she's believed, because the Chazoka is not because of a claim. It's not a claim. It's not a claim. It's the Chazoka. It's the
You can even attack it because you have a problem because of the claims. That's the reason why you have.
Yeah, I know that. But now that she's believed, what is the fact that Mishum Hochi? What's the reason I believe? Why the reason the basic believes her? Why I believe her? What? That's what it means. The basic believes in the Ne'emen is the basic. Ne'emen is to us. Ne'emen is the basic. Mitzat Chazaka. So the Marit says, if it's Cheskas Aguf, I don't have to come to her claims. I don't need to have a strong body against weak Shema. That's a kind of a built-in proof inside the words. And we're going to see next week more about the book. I want everybody to prepare the Toises, Rav Una v'Rav Yudah. This Toises. Good body in Shema in Sufis. It's a big kashi on Toises. Why does Ahava mean in Toises at Suf? Our Toises, Rav Una v'Rav Yudah Amrechaya. We're going to bring the Nesivas V'lineder here. I want people to see this Nesivas. And we're going to deal with it. We have to summarize this at this point. Please learn the Toises well. And why Sumchus as why was the Hava mean that the Sumchus is without tinus? Or because of that, the Maskon is not. It's very strange Toises. We're going to deal with it. What?
Worry like Chama.
Right.
So therefore, Chazaka itself can't succeed. You can't have, in worry, you can't succeed. So therefore,
Good point. Yes, a good question. I want to explain if Yosef Chaim's kasha against me. If I want to say that come to the Marit, it's a kasha in the Marit. The Marit says that when I'm Cheskas Aguf, I don't have to come onto Borim Shema. When Cheskas Din, I have to come onto Borim Shema. If the Cheskas Aguf, I don't come to Borim Shema, so page 16, 15b and 16, there's Cheskas Aguf is kind of 30 years ago when they got married. They got married at Basula and Asua, and the Cheskas Aguf tells her, because no Bila outside, it's with the husband. So there's no Cheskas Aguf, never Isa. The actual question was what happened there. And then you have Cheskas Aguf, so the Choiro there, why the Gemara says, Bogi ve'bogi gam yeled mitz, The answer is,
Loy Kama,
we have to learn the svara that why when I Bori and Shema Rabbi Meir believes, when I Bori and Bori he's not believed.
Rashi says two answers.
Let's see Rashi there. Rashi says there, Bori veBori Bori Shema. No, Rashi doesn't explain it. Okay. See, the Choyla is asking why, when it's Bori of Bori, Rav Gamliel admits when the Chazok is the main thing, the factor. Now, the answer is, let me finish. The answer is when I have Cheskas Momon with Bori, Cheskas Aguf, so it means there's no suffix anymore. Cheskas cannot take an effect. That's
a
a
spora. Those are zakas are sporas that are totally.
Chazaka means if I have a doubt, because although he has Cheskas Aguf, but I already tell you the svara of next week. The svara of Shema, I think the svara is when I have Cheskas Aguf and I don't know, so I'm saying I don't know what I'm holding, so I'm really questioning my holding. Shema, it's a punch, it's an arrow, a ballistic missile against what I'm holding.
It's a goal at me.
Go that's me. I'm saying I don't know what I'm holding. I'm going to talk next week more about it. They don't know after the Nesivas. But I know what I'm holding. I know what I'm holding, Mechlam. I don't know what I'm holding. So I'm holding. So I know means I'm questioning my holding. Basically, I'm saying I'm holding Efke kind of. We're going to see more about it. But 1 second. So then I don't know what I'm holding, and you have Cheskas Aguf. Cheskas Aguf wins the Anogi. That's how Anogi should follow.
You mean they're both Shem and Shema, that's what you're saying. That's what she's saying. Shem and Shem. And he's Cheskas moment plus Shema.
Correct.
So then that's where the Cheskas.
Yes, but when I have Bori, so therefore Cheskas Aguf doesn't even start. There's no suffix here. I have Cheskas and Bori I'm holding, which means we're saying when Rab Gamliel said that Cheskas Aguf wins Cheskas Momoin, when the Cheskas Momoin itself was shooting onto himself, shooting in his leg, because he's saying, "You're there, I don't know." He says clearly, or that's Lamais, he doesn't know. Shema, because that's a Shema, he doesn't know. So then he doesn't have a body, he doesn't have something strong to hold himself. But when he says body, so then there's no nogi here, there's no what to act. I know means to act. There's no act. He's holding the money. I'm holding my shirt. There's no greater chazokah. That's a svara. That's how we have to answer this. But we're going to go to this svara. I want you to prepare this specific point for next week. I'm going to print out Bli Neder the Nesivas. And the Nesivas here, learn the Toisves, and Bezrat Hashem also learn Kanitza Kayo, the Shav Shmaitzes. There's a lot of what to learn. The base Yaakov, and now floor Bezrat Hashem.
I want to say this story. I
Both very good.
want to say here.
I want to learn the Pnei Yeshua, but not much time.
The Cheskas Aguf.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
I want to explain the Cheskas Momon.
Yes.
We see Gimel Pavasa Takonale.
Yes.
Every Cheskas, every Bori, every time has to have a Chazok or Bias. I mean, a Cheskas Momon. So the Mishnah
Chazok Melotainu.
Right. So really is when you have.
And that's the Nesivas. It goes on that. The Nesivas goes on this specific point. On a land, when I say I don't know what I'm, he said I found an empty land and I went and I ate the fruits. What are you doing here? I don't claim it's mine. I said so, which means there the Nesivas says that I'm destroying my muchzor. The Shema there is destroying my muchzor. It's not even tofus. Of course, we're going to see next week. I'm a tofus and not even a tofus. I'm nothing because I'm shooting on myself. Any of them. This is next week, Mr. Hashem. Yes. What? Thank you. Sab Tamayim? Where's the mind? Don't bring more.
The whole thing is based on the kindness and you're bringing scores in order to explain what the Messiah is.
Good. Houdini.
You have nothing to talk about it. Until you have a case where you have tinnitus, it's not shy to talk about the zuckers.
Okay, good. We're going to talk about it next week. Musa Shmuz. I want to talk about something very important. That I want to talk about something very important with the help of Hashem. And I want to explain this because I had Rahman Tzal in my whole lifetime many times and many nisyonos to follow it. Personally, the yeshiva, etc. With the help of Hashem. Very famous, and unfortunately, when you're in a tzibur position, this happens a lot. For people in business, it happens a lot. And I want to explain this yesoid, in my understanding. And the yesoid is for the people who are learning. Okay. The siyata dishmai. Ve'ela mishpotim asher tosim lifneihem. You should put in front of them. Those are the judgment, the rules, the laws that you should put in front of them. So we spoke about Monday, we spoke about has to be put in front of them, has to be ready like food and all prepared, easy to learn. But there's another Gemara. Please. Lifneim. There's another Gemara in Gittin. In Gittin page 84b. The Gemara in Gittin says, Lifneim velo lifnei goyim. And more than that. ואפילו יודעתו בדין אחד שהם דונים מויסו כדין ישראל. You knew there's one law that they judge the law like the law of the Jews. Al taviyel ba'al koshem, don't go to their courts. Sha'amei v'idin Yisrael ifnei goyim, one who brings the laws of Jews in front of goyim, mechal es Hashem, u'meyaker Shem avodah zarah la'achshiva. You're disgracing God's name, and you elevating the name of avodah zarah. And the language of the Torah is Aro mehi miyad b'toras Moshe. You're putting your hands up against the Torah of Moshe. I want to explain this. And this happened a lot to me. Baruch Hashem, at big nisyonos, big nisyonos, of big amount, $900,000. I can say in public. A lot of money. It's a big argument with people, etc. Big money. In many different cases, not only cases like that. That you can go out, I'll tell you one of the examples in Eretz Yisrael. Okay? Perfect example. Especially when you're Rosh Yeshiva or Rabbi, it happens a lot. The law in Eretz Yisrael, the law in Israel, in the state of Israel, a lot of the laws is built on the Turkish law and the English law, and some of it is built on the Jewish law. Some. Bar Ilan took upon themselves to try to put in a lot into the law of the Jewish law inside of it. Bar Ilan University.
Yeah, my mom has her question in her master's. She has it from Bar Ilan as a lawyer too.
Right. They're very big into that. The state of Israel doesn't have chukah, doesn't have a rule, doesn't have a constitution. It's all mixed of different laws, and therefore they wanted to push in as much as they can. The Mizrahi wanted to push in a lot of the laws of the Jewish law into the state because they believe the state of Israel. It's like you have a king of Israel, which is not really avodah zarah, but is a king of Israel. It's still a king. But the Haredim held anti-Zionism. They don't believe in that. They call, if you go to Bet Mishpat, you're going to avodah zarah based. What? Akum. Akaot. And not only that, kshoivenu prilin, when our enemies judge judgments, ze eidus lilu yirosom. This an eidus, a testimony to elevate their avodah zarah. I just want to mention one point as a curious, that there were people in England many years ago that called the Ibriim. They knew Kol HaTorah. They were English people, and they started to influence the people in Venezia. I heard this from Yochanan Weiner. I also checked it in books later on. This is true. That is in history. You can check it in history. About 200-300 years ago, 400 years ago, there was a group of people, started from English, and some even was the Goyim in the north of Italy, that they believed that the only international law that can rule the whole world has to be the Jewish law. Because since they're Christians build on the Old Testament, and that's the true law of Hashem. And therefore, the only law that the whole world can accept is not a local law, it has to be the international law, has to be built on the Jewish law. And they learned the whole Shas, Poiskim, Rambam, Ramban, everything. Wow. They knew Hebrew well, the Hebrews is called. English people. They say that the heads of in the United States of America, there were those students of those people. Abraham Lincoln and all those that they knew Hebrew, they knew Tanakh Baal Peh, and they believed. That's what they said. So this part I don't know. That's I heard from someone. I know, but definitely the first part I definitely heard.
The language Hebrew.
They weren't Talmud Chachamim, right?
No, they were not. But their rabbis in universities, they knew the whole Shas, Poiskim, they learned all that. They sat day and night in the libraries, and they learned the whole the Rishonim in the Talmud, Babi Wuchami, the Mamash Goyne Oilam, but with no Neshama. Goyish Neshama. Mamash, Mishiganis, but that's what it, but that was a small, to the level, there's a famous story in Venezia, that there was a big argument between merchants of Istanbul and merchants of Venezia, and the contract was that the international law would decide the law, this argument. And who knows the international, the Jewish law? The rabbis. So what they did, they took it to the highest Beis Din in Istanbul. Istanbul, that was the capital of the Ottomans, and that was a big Beis Din, that was a government Beis Din. In those days, the Jewish rabbis, the Beis Din in Turkey was authorized by the government, and they agreed that that's the international law, the Jewish law. But the Venezia people were very smart. What they did, they took 20 rabbis, they locked them in a tower, and they sent a message to the rabbis there. If it's against us, we throw him into the sea. Blackmail. We throw him into the sea. Right? If you're not going to pass, if you're going to against us, I'm going to make sure that the rabbis. So that's how the international law works, because Jews are international. Okay? So they always win. But that was a true story. I don't know what the end of it was, but that was a true story in history, marked in history. So even if the Hebrews have a court in the international law and it's a Jewish law, still, since that Christians or who knows what, have the Zohar, even have the same law, is evilly also be putting your hands against Torah Moshe. So now I want to elaborate a little bit with Siyata D'Shmaya. What does it mean? This is the beginning of laws. The first statement, before Hashem starts teaching us all the mishpatim, this is a preface, right? Is the most important thing. So I understand from this, so we talked about how the Rebbe needs to teach the Jishpah, that was Monday. Now he's saying more. Now the Torah is teaching us the value of those laws. What is the Eichus? What is it? The Goyim has the same law. They took the Gemara Shas, they took the Ramban, and they made it their law, right? If I go to their court, is Meirim Yad B'Teiras Moshe. So definitely, if it's not the same law, but I don't go. If even it's the same law, you're not allowed to go to that. And it's a Meirim Yad, putting your hands against Teiras Moshe. Torah says, listen, rabbis, you should, when you teach, or Moshe Rabbeinu, when you teach the Jewish people, you have to tell them, listen, those laws, those mishpatim, it's only in front of you. You cannot search anywhere else for those laws, even the same law exists somewhere else. Or if it doesn't exist, you cannot go because of disgrace for chukim, mishpatim, chachom, and nevoinim. The Torah says that the mishpatim of Hashem is this ki chochmaschem v'binaschem. This is your wisdom and your understanding against all the nations. Hashem gave us the Torah. So let's a little elaborate. What's the difference between, if it's definitely not the same law, I understand. Their chukim, as the Rebbe used to bring down, my father bring down the Ran and Drosh Saran. The Ran says that there's a major difference between Jewish law and non-Jewish law. Ad kedei kach that Hashem said, really, the Jews should not have a king. The Jewish people will not have a king. Why? Because the goal of the king is to do tikkun medini, the fixing of the country. The goal of the Beis Din is to do the tikkun ha'eloki. I want to explain this. It's very deep, very serious. And this is really for you, Rabbi Yeshua. He said, what does no get to us? Learners of Torah. I will give an example, which I love always to bring. And I have a lot of guys to it. When an ox gores, my ox gores somebody's ox. So what is the Beis Din's goal in judging this act? Is to give back the money that this guy was damaged? or to fix me that my money damaged. Tikkun Eloki, the godliness tikkun, or tikkun medini, to make peace between people.
No, spiritual.
1 second. Let's see what the Ran says. The Ran says, or both. So the Ran says like this: the king's job is to do the tikkun medini, to make peace between people. In order to make peace, as the Goyim says, well, no rules will become animals. So their goal is not to be an animal. No, we're not just not to be animals. We want to be an elevated people, godliness people. It's different. It's a whole different. It's not negative. I remember many years ago, me and my brother went to America. I was saying, joke a little bit. We went to America for 1 year to learn, and it was a Gulf War. So we went to my cousin. He opened a television, and they said, this guy, it was Schwarzkopf. I got some guy, he was the head of the American Army in the Gulf, this and that, and they made a levaya. And there was hundreds of people there, and they gave one of his friends to speak about it, and says, oh, my friend was such a good man. He never stole. He never took drugs. He said in front of all America, that's good, not stealing, not taking drugs, not fooling around, negative. That's a good going. It's great.
It's very minimum for a Jew.
I said, what? I was laughing and laughing. Me and my brother Rabban was there. We were laughing and laughing. This is in our minds for years. We never had this. What? In front of all, and George W. Bush, I know, was standing there, standing straight, kind of American, is all praising this guy. That's a praise. It was a shock, a culture shock. I mean, like a shock. We speechless. We couldn't figure out. Jews are not to be animals. That's what we have. Society rules, laws for not to be animals, not to eat each other. Yes, you have to have malchus. Otherwise, Chaimish flu, each one will swallow each other. It says not only that's goyim. The goyim have rules and laws. Why, rabbis? Tikkun medini. So the Ramban and Droshes Yudal. Look at the Ramban and Droshes. Ran and Droshes. The Ran and Droshes Yudal. Yud Aleph. The Ran and Droshes Yudal. So the goal of a king is to do Tikkun medini. The goal of a Jew, of Beis Din, is to do the Tikkun Eloki. When somebody's damaged someone, he cut off his connection to Hashem. He has a din of Gazlan between Hashem. He has a din of damage of a mazik. He has to do tshuva ben lechaveiroi ben odom la'okoi. It's a tshuva, it's a tshuva. So now he has to, how do you do tshuva? You have to do tikkun amidini for the goal of tikkun eloki. But it's not tikkun amidini, not to have fights. You have to look for justice, for tzedek, for truth. And in order to tell it, this is a whole different Torah. Can you compare? There's no comparison. It's not oranges and apples. It's not even peanuts and apples. It's no comparison, no dimyon. This not to be animals, and here's MS. It's tzedek v'emes. It's tinuk haloiki. It's a whole different world. How can you compare? Comes the Torah Dosh and he says, "Don't go to them. Value what I'm giving you. This is lifnei, and I'm giving you mishpatim is only in front of you, not in front of goyim. Because in front of you is tikkun eloki. I'm giving you justice, din tzedek, ve'emes, and tikkun eloki. That's what passes mishpatim, and that's just rules not to be animals. Is to elevate ourselves. We can have rules of true, of emes, and justice. Tikkun eloki. I remember one of my first, when I became a dayan many years ago, and one of my first din, which that was one after I said I'm not going to be a judge anymore, dayan, because I found the Knesset Agdola says that even though people agree to you become a dayan, baskoma is not good. You have to do is always have three.
Sure.
No, it's good to have three, because when you have three, each one argues the true svavas come out. To be a dayan yechidi is with the Eved, in that specific case, I had a fight, they didn't trust no one. Okay. But Lamaise, what was the argument about? It was a guy from the yeshiva, I'm not going to mention his name. He had everybody knows it. I mean, all the guys know it. He had a wedding of his daughter. And it was raining. And the guy, you have a canopy, strong, heavy rain. And the father or the mother of the kala or the chassan, doesn't matter. They pick up the canopy, and a whole stream of water went and destroyed the camera.
Oh.
Okay, wait a second.
What?
The no wedding with no pictures. I want you should pay me no endless money, destroy my wedding. Should have bought another camera. What do you mean? You picked up the order, and the order went and destroyed my camera. Right? Whatever. And the end was, there was a groma, and the rabbi, and this one of the rabbis of the yeshiva came over to me and said, listen, Rabbi, I've learned Torah many years in the yeshiva. But what's a story? What groma? I said, listen, the goal of the Torah is a tikkun ha'eloki. If the Torah says it's groma and groma is kipotu, midin shamayim, you have to pay. But means you had to have the tzar. You had to have, you lost your panos, you didn't pay for the wedding. They had to have the tzar, which means the fact that is in the rules in the realm of groma and zikim potu or alosu, that has enough teeth to collect money, whatever it is, that's the tikkun ha'eloki. The tikkun ha'eloki is that you have to have the tzar that your camera will be destroyed. They have to have the tzar because whatever they need, the girl couldn't have a wedding with beautiful pictures. Just another small camera, who knows what. In those days, I don't know, 20 years ago, how many years ago it was? Or more? And that's was it, and he was Mekabel. This is the point. The point is that the Eila Mishpotim, you know which Mishpotim I'm giving you, only to you, Lifneim, and more than that. Now let's go back another level. What happens if they have the same rules? The Hebrews. It's different. Because in their eye, when they look in the Torah, they look in the Torah as Tikkun HaMedini. Although they're going to say the same psak, but they don't have Hashem. Hashem Elokim is Nika B'Atzadah scale. When you go to the base, you have to stand up, right? Why? Because Elokim, God is standing there. Because God is helping the judges. Before the judges, they judge. They say, Tefillah, Hashem help us to Mechamed Emes. Because you want to do justice and Emes and bring justice and truth. You want to do Emes. You want to do Tikkun HaEloki to this Jew that did a damage and his dad, he got damaged. We want to be part of the master plan of Hashem. We want to be part of that. That's what the Gemara says in Robasli. Any judge, and called Dayan, Shadam Din Emes La'amitoy. Emes La'amitoy. So the Beis Yosef, the Toises in the Arab, there's a Kivege, there's a Marsho. And Daf Chesam will be, look at this Marsho, he brings a Beis Yosef, he has a big guy, what is Emes La'amitoy? So I told my father, bless his memory, many years ago, what is Emes La'amitoy? Emes that fits everywhere. He says, how do we know that Arizal is true? Because he told us that Hashem, God told him. What is his imagination? So he said, in the name of Rabbi Zimmerman, that the fact that he said a complete system, that his whole system everywhere fits everywhere, and all the Rabbonim through 500 years ago checked his words and see that it didn't find holes in what he said, that's what we know as a Min HaShamayim. This is Torah Seves. Emes La'amitoy. That's going on. But we're saying any judge that judges Emes La'amitoy is a shutaf l'akadosh baruch hu ma'aseh bereshis. What does that mean? Why is a partner? Because he's a partner doing tikkun ha'eloki. A judge is not judging for himself. He's judging to bring truth, justice, to do the tikkun ha'eloki, the godly tikkun of those people. Why he got hurt, and how he's going to pay, and what way, and what methods of payment, and how much tzar, and how much pain he's going to have with it. That's all included tikkun ha'eloki. That's all master plan of Hashem, and the Dayan has to fit himself in. And if he's fit, he's a shutov, he's a partner of Ma'aseh Bereshis. This is what Hashem says. Don't you dare! If you go there, you pick on your hands at Torah Moshe. Our Torah is different Torah. Our Torah is Torah Elokim. It's just the truth of Hashem. We're involved with the master plan of Hashem. Can you dare go there? And even they say the same words. Who says that those words will be the tikkun to this guy? Sometimes even the Dayan, he's toya and makes a mistake. It's all part of Hashem master. Because the Dayan, Hashem makes it that because we have all there. It's all built in the tikkun ha'eloki, in the master plan of Hashem. And this is the preface. This is the Agdom of the Pasas Mishpotim. Our Mishpotim, we learn Ksubes, Bolabasa, Babakame. It's not rules that not to be animals. He didn't steal, he didn't do drugs, he didn't rape. No. We're elevated, we're angels. Man mal malochim, Rabbonon are angels. We're living an angel life, an elevated life. Doing everywhere we do tikkun, bring our godliness into the world. This is who we are. We understand that, we value the Torah of Yeshiva. Torah we're learning should be dancing what we are involved with. Good Shabbos. רוצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזעם ישראל לפיקו, עיר בו להם תלמיד שנאמר אנחנו בעצם מהצית כל. ביל תוירו ויד. דל יסקדי שמי רבו.